everyone, my name is Leanne and today I'm going to be recommending to you some short books for the Irish Readathon. Those of you who have been here a while may remember these bookshelves from the lockdowns, from COVID times. I am actually in Ireland for a work trip and I'm staying at my mum's house, so I have access to my beautiful bookshelves. A lot of my book collection remains at my mum's house. So while I'm here, I have pulled off a selection of short books from these bookshelves. This is by no means an extensive list of all of the short Irish books that I love. They are just the ones that I've been able to pull off the shelves. But let's get into it. So if you've seen the challenges for the Irish Readathon, you will know that one of the challenges is to read a book that is either really short or really long. So really short being under 100 pages. So I'm going to start with the books that would fit into that category. So This Hostel Life by Malatu Uche Ekori comes in at 95 pages, so it is just shy of 100 pages. In this book, there is an essay on direct provision, which is a system of housing, and housing is, to put it generously, in Ireland where asylum seekers are put. This has been called a human rights violation. It's not suitable accommodation whatsoever. So there's an essay covering that, as well as some short stories from the perspective of migrant women in Ireland. I think this is a really important book, especially for those people who have kind of an idyllic, utopian idea of Ireland. That is certainly not the case. So highly recommend this one. I have a small stack of very little books that come from three kind of collections of miniature books. So I have a couple of little black classics. So I have Lord Arthur Saville's Crime by Oscar Wilde. While this is by an Irish writer, it is about kind of London high society and dandies and kind of anarchists. And A Modern Proposal by Jonathan Swift, which is a 18th century political satire about how to solve the famine in Ireland. And in Penguin's mini modern series, I have The Great Hunger by Patrick Kavanagh, which is a collection of poems. And obviously poetry could be a great way of you finding a book that is under 100 pages, and there are so many fantastic Irish poets out there. And then two books from Faber's 90 series. So Dante and the Lobster by Samuel Beckett. This is very surrealist, and I'm not fully sure that I knew what was going on at any point when I read this, but maybe if you're into that more kind of literary surrealist kind of vibe, you would get more from this. I actually much prefer Waiting for Godot, which is a Samuel Beckett play. And then something a bit more contemporary is Mr. Salary by Sally Rooney, obviously most well known for Normal People and her other novels, etc. This is a short story that packs a serious punch. If you've read Sally Rooney novels before and you haven't read this short story, I would really recommend it. It's very good. And of course, I'm sure there are other Irish writers in these series of books. I might look into it and see if I can pick up a couple to add to my TBR for March. I have some plays to recommend to you as well. So I have an Oxford English Drama edition of J.M. Synge's plays. The most famous of those is probably The Playboy of the Western World, which caused a lot of controversy when it was first performed in Ireland because it was seen as being quite stereotypical and offensive. There was riots following the play. But there's actually 6 plays included in this collection. So while this physical book is over 100 pages, the plays themselves are under 100 pages. Dancing at Lunasa by Brian Friel. Brian Friel has a number of plays, but this is the one that I had on my shelf, and I have read this one before. This is set in 1936 in County Donegal, and it is about the 5 Mundy sisters who range in age from I think 26 to 40, and it's a very sort of domestic story about their lives, but also about the kind of wider landscape, the interior versus the exterior of their lives, and a lot about kind of Christianity in Ireland as well. I'm actually going to watch this play be performed with Caris and Anna in a few months' time. It is on at the National in London, and it's got Sister Michael and Orla from Derry Girls in it, so I'm very excited to see that. So I am going to reread this one in preparation for that. And then we have Sive by John B. Keane, which I actually read when I was in school. I think this was one of my texts for the Leaving Cert, which is like the big exam that you do at the end of secondary school when you're like 18. So this is about Sive, who is a young girl who is being pressured into a marriage with a much older man. And it is about extreme poverty in Ireland. And if you don't want spoilers for the end of this play, I would skip forward about 10-15 seconds because the plot of this book is essentially a Mean Girls reference before there was Mean Girls. Don't have sex because you will get pregnant and die. And then I have a selection of books which aren't under 100 pages, but they're still pretty short. Coming in at 150 pages, I have a non-fiction book. I have What White People Can Do Next by Emma Dabiri. You may know this author as the author of Don't Touch My Hair. This book is slightly more academic than that book. It's a book that really interrogates whiteness, but also interrogates how capitalism and racism are so intimately linked. While a lot of these books are super short, so you can kind of fly through them, this is one that I would encourage you to take a lot more time with and really like soak in the material and reflect on the material, particularly obviously if you are reading it as a white person, like do the work. And again, if you think that Ireland is this kind of utopia free of prejudice, you need a reality check. Please read this book. The Space Between by Meg Grehan is a female young adult love story that also deals with a lot of topics of mental health. It's written in verse, so while it's around 175 pages, it is a really quick read, and I love books that are told in verse, and I think in particular YA is just a fantastic medium for that kind of storytelling. It's very sweet. I think the topics of mental health are dealt with really fantastically. Meg has a YouTube channel as well, so I will leave that linked down below in the description. Dubliners by James Joyce. So I have kind of mixed feelings on James Joyce's writing. He's not necessarily for me. I'm never going to read Ulysses, but I think he's definitely still worth recommending, especially if you are someone who's interested in learning about kind of the canon of Irish literature. Then I think he's kind of a must read in that regard. So Ulysses is his freaking massive book. So if you wanted to read that for your read a book over 500 pages, be my guest. But if you are looking for something a little bit shorter, this is Dubliners. It is a collection of 15 short stories. So obviously if you were just to read one short story, you can count that as a book under 100 pages. But if you wanted to read this whole collection, this edition comes in at around 200 pages. So it's still a pretty short book. These stories are set in a bunch of different places across Dublin that kind of offer us a glimpse into middle class life. And it's set around the early 20th century. If you are into stream of consciousness, but you are looking for something a bit more contemporary, I would recommend Emer McBride. So this is A Girl Is a Half-Formed Thing, which comes in at around 200 pages as well, I think. And then Strange Hotel. This is not the final cover. Obviously, this is an old proof copy, but that comes in at around 150 pages. So these are both also stream of consciousness, but more modern, contemporary, female storytelling as well. These books have a lot to do with kind of womanhood. Some very heavy topics dealt with in these, particularly A Girl Is a Half-Formed Thing. So a bit of a warning for that going into it, but definitely for the more kind of literary readers amongst you guys. I'm actually going to finish on two books that I read in school, so like Sive. This is Felicia's Journey by William Trevor. So I guess content warning for this in terms of like young woman going missing. So this is about a young woman named Felicia who has become pregnant, and she travels from Ireland to Birmingham in search of the father of her unborn child. She doesn't find him, but instead meets a man named Mr. Hilditch who kind of takes her in, takes an interest in her. And as a reader, we are very unclear and suspicious of his intentions throughout the book. And I remember reading this like in the classroom, and we were so tense when we were reading this. And then finally, coming in at 150 pages, we have How Many Miles to Babylon by Jennifer Johnson. This is a book that is set around the First World War, and we are following two young men named Alec and Jerry who are from very different backgrounds. So one of them is kind of upper middle class, Anglo-Irish, Protestant, born into wealth and privilege. And then the other is from a more impoverished Catholic Irish background. But these two form an unlikely friendship based around their love for horses. And we are following that friendship in the lead up to them both signing up to join the war in 1914. And we see how different their fates and destinies and experiences in the war are purely because of the class that they were born into. Really great book. I would love to reread this one actually. So that is it. They are all of the books I'm going to recommend to you today. Do let me know if you've read any of these already and what you thought of them. Or if you are taking part in the prompts for the Irish Readathon, let me know what short book you are thinking of picking up if that's the challenge that you've gone for. If you want more recommendations for the Irish Readathon, I will leave all of the information linked down below, as well as my playlist of videos. So there's like 4 years worth of videos packed full of recommendations for you. That is it for me today. I hope you guys are doing well, and I will speak to you in my next video.